There are Christmas traditions from the 1960s and 70s that felt like they'd last forever, but didn't. Not because we stopped loving them, but because the world changed in ways we never saw coming. Today, we're uncovering 14 Christmas customs that 1960s kids have almost completely forgotten. Some will make you smile, others might break your heart a little. Here's what you need to understand. These traditions didn't just disappear overnight. They vanished for specific reasons. Safety concerns that made parents gasp, legal changes nobody saw coming, and cultural shifts that rewrote the rules of Christmas itself. One of these traditions, number 9 specifically, was so dangerous that it literally sent thousands of families to the emergency room. But here's the wild part. Parents kept doing it anyway year after year because nobody told them the truth about what was inside. So stick with me through all 14 traditions because the last one, it's not just forgotten, it's the tradition that defined what it meant to wait for Christmas. And when it disappeared, it changed childhood forever. Let's start with number 14. Let's start with something that taught an entire generation about patience, and it happened at the bank of all places. Every single January, millions of Americans walked into their local bank and opened a Christmas Club account. You deposit $1 to $10 every week, 52 weeks. No skipping. By 1965, over 14 million Americans were doing this, saving over $2 billion annually. You earned zero interest. But in early November, that check arrived and Christmas was paid for. Here's what made it powerful. It was a ritual. You physically went to the bank. The teller knew your name. You saw your neighbors doing the exact same thing. Banks competed with gifts. Open an account, get a free toaster or blankets or dishes, then credit cards arrived. By 1980, why save all year when you can buy now and pay later? We traded discipline for convenience, and nobody noticed when it disappeared. In 1968, Americans sent 4 billion Christmas cards. That's billion with a B. Families maintained card lists with hundreds of names. The process started in November, addressing envelopes, adding personal notes, applying stamps. This was evenings of work. Receiving these cards was the event. People strung them on ribbons across doorways. It was competitive home decoration. For distant relatives, this card was the only annual contact. No Facebook, no texting, just that one card in December. Mailmen delivered bags of cards daily. The post office hired thousands of temporary workers just to handle the surge. Then the email arrived. Social media closed the gap. Today's average household sends just 20 cards. Picture this, December evening 1968. You're in your living room and suddenly you hear voices outside. Real voices singing Silent Night on your front porch. This wasn't scheduled. Scout troops bundled up. Church groups grabbed songbooks. Homeowners expected this. They kept cookies and hot chocolate ready. Some groups collected for charity, UNICEF boxes, March of Dimes containers. The activity peaked around 1968 when 60% of American neighborhoods experienced regular caroling. Everyone knew the songs. This was community in its purest form. Then stranger danger became the new paranoia. Gated communities made spontaneous caroling impossible. By the mid-1970s, that magical surprise stopped happening. Late August, that's when childhood officially began its countdown to Christmas. The Sears Christmas Wish Book, 600 pages, nearly 5 pounds of glossy dreams. Kids claimed them immediately, different colored pens for each child. You'd spend months circling desired toys. The 1969 edition had 225 toy pages alone. Parents used them as behavior tools. Rural families depended on these catalogs. For some, Sears was the only shopping option. By Christmas, these catalogs were dog-eared, torn, covered in marker circles. From 1933 to 1993, this ritual defined anticipation. Then the internet happened. The 1992 edition was the last one. That delicious torture of waiting months between choosing and receiving, gone. Here's something younger people won't believe. There was one day a week when nothing was open. Christmas season Sundays meant zero shopping. Forgot ingredients? Too bad. Need gifts? Wait until Monday. Gas stations closed, grocery stores closed, department stores locked tight. These were blue laws. The quiet Sundays forced family time. Churches saw packed attendance because there were no competing activities. By 1978, most states had repealed them. Today's 24/7 Christmas shopping would seem impossible to 1960s families. Here's the dangerous one I warned you about. Before 1972, every strand of tinsel on your Christmas tree contained lead foil, the actual toxic metal. Families saved and reused them for years. Kids spent hours placing individual strands, but here's why people loved it. The weight made it perfect. Each strand hung straight down, creating shimmering waterfalls of silver that modern substitutes cannot replicate. Nobody talked about the danger. Kids handled it constantly, put it near their mouths. Parents had no idea they were exposing their children to lead poisoning. The FDA banned lead tinsel in August 1971. Manufacturers switched to plastic. It floated away from branches, clung to sweaters with static, looked cheap, that heavy shimmer gone forever. Given what we know now, that's probably for the best, but if you remember that shimmer. Nothing since has captured it. These weren't just Christmas lights. These were miniature lava lamps for your tree. Each unit had a glass tube filled with colored liquid sitting on a hot bulb. The heat made it boil, creating streams of bubbles. Introduced in 1946, they peaked in the 1960s. They took 5 minutes to heat up. Kids sat hypnotized watching. Break one and mysterious liquid spilled everywhere, methylene chloride, which metabolizes into carbon monoxide if ingested. Different brands bubbled at different speeds. Some families combined multiple strings for maximum effect. They ran incredibly hot and consumed serious electricity. By the 1973 energy crisis, they seemed wasteful. Modern LED lights can't generate enough heat for bubbling. The era when they were on every tree, that's what disappeared. That ethereal material that made trees look wrapped in clouds, pure spun glass. Angel hair came in boxes, delicate as cobwebs. Parents issued warnings, don't touch it, it'll cut you. They were right. The fine glass fibers could slice skin and irritate eyes and lungs. Kids watched from a distance as mothers carefully draped the strands over branches. The stuff got everywhere, stuck to sweaters, embedded in carpets found months later. You couldn't reuse it. Once disturbed, it became a tangled, dangerous mess. By the mid-1970s, safety concerns ended the tradition. That otherworldly glow, nothing since has captured it, but given it was literally fiberglass around children, maybe that one deserved to disappear. From 1959 to 1965, millions abandoned real trees for gleaming silver sculptures that looked like spaceships. The aluminum specialty company in Manitowoc, Wisconsin cranked out over 1 million. They cost about $150 to $250 today. They weren't trying to look natural. These were space-age statements. You couldn't string regular lights on them, the metal conducted electricity. Instead, families placed a color wheel on the floor. A spotlight behind rotating gels washed the tree in shifting reds, blues, greens, and ambers. Then in 1965, Charlie Brown's Christmas special aired. Charlie Brown rejects the aluminum tree for a scraggly real one. America followed his lead. By 1969, sales plummeted, until vintage collectors brought them back decades later, selling for hundreds or thousands. There was a time when giving and receiving fruitcakes wasn't a joke. Families spent days making homemade versions, soaking fruits in brandy for months. A quality fruitcake required ingredients costing about $125 today. Companies like Collins Street Bakery shipped millions. Recipients actually appreciated them, served slices with pride. The dense cakes lasted months without refrigeration, practical gifts before overnight shipping. Then Johnny Carson's Tonight Show started making jokes in the 1970s, the same fruitcake being regifted year after year. They became comedy props. By 1980, fruitcakes were punchlines, which is sad because those homemade versions were actually good. Every woman in the 1960s expected to receive and wear a Christmas corsage. Florists created elaborate arrangements with tiny ornaments, ribbons, and bells. These cost about $28 to $75 today. Women wore them to church, office parties, and family dinners. The corsages featured poinsettias, holly, miniature pine cones, silver bells. Some included battery-powered lights by 1968. Husbands knew forgetting meant serious trouble. Women compared corsages competitively, judging thoughtfulness by size and elaborateness. Women's liberation movements criticized corsages as symbols of female decoration. By 1975, the tradition was fading. Public schools universally presented elaborate Christmas pageants. Zero controversy. Every child participated, whether Christian or not. Full nativity scenes, angels, wise men, explicitly religious songs. Mothers sewed costumes for months. Bed sheets became shepherd robes. Tinfoil-covered cardboard crowns. The Christmas play determined social hierarchies. Who played Mary or Joseph mattered enormously. Being cast as a sheep or tree, social disaster. Jewish, Muslim, and atheist families rarely objected publicly. It was just what happened at Christmas. By 1975, a clue challenges began eliminating religious content. Winter concerts replaced Christmas pageants. Attending your company's Christmas party wasn't optional. It was an unwritten requirement affecting your career. These elaborate affairs at hotels started at 6 p.m. sharp on Friday evenings. Major companies spent lavishly. General Motors' 1968 party cost $50,000, about $425,000 today. Wives wore formal gowns, husbands rented tuxedos, full orchestras, not DJs. This was formal. Open bars flowed freely. Dancing with the boss's wife was politically crucial. Missing the party, you'd be explaining yourself for months. By 1975, women's workplace equality made spouse-required events problematic. Drunk driving lawsuits ended open bars. Today's optional, casual gatherings bear no resemblance. And here it is, the tradition that defined what it meant to wait for Christmas. Christmas stockings always contained oranges in the toe and mixed nuts in shells, a Depression-era tradition that lingered for decades. The orange represented exotic luxury from when fresh fruit was rare in winter. Even prosperous families maintained this custom, always a navel variety, individually wrapped in tissue paper like something precious. Nuts required crackers and picks, creating Christmas morning activities. Walnuts, Brazil nuts, pecans, hazelnuts. Children expected these items. Feeling cheated without them became part of Christmas morning, that moment of, oh, the orange again. But it mattered, it was tradition. Traditional stockings also contained ribbon candy, chocolate coins, candy canes, small toys, jacks, marbles, yo-yos, nothing expensive, nothing electronic. By the mid-1970s, year-round fruit availability made oranges mundane. Shelled nuts replaced troublesome whole ones. Today's stockings contain gift cards and electronics worth hundreds. That simple pleasure of discovering an orange and nuts, items requiring patience to enjoy, connecting you to your parents' childhood, saying this is what Christmas tastes like, vanished completely. We didn't stop putting things in stockings. We stopped teaching our children to find joy in simple things, to appreciate what once felt exotic, to understand that waiting and wanting and finally receiving something small but meaningful. That was the whole point. And when that disappeared, childhood changed forever. These weren't just traditions, they were the fabric of an entire season. The rhythm that turned November into December into Christmas morning. Some vanished because they were genuinely dangerous. Lead tinsel and angel hair probably shouldn't come back, but others. We traded them for convenience without realizing what we were giving up. The anticipation, the discipline, the communal experience of everyone doing the same things at the same time. Christmas used to require patience, planning, participation. You couldn't Amazon Prime your way through Christmas Eve. You couldn't skip the work and still get the magic. Your grandparents remember these traditions vividly. They shaped their understanding of what Christmas meant, not just the day itself, but the entire season leading up to it. Ask them about the aluminum tree, the bubble lights, the orange in the stocking. Record those stories before they fade like tinsel on an old sweater, because these aren't just holiday memories. They're proof that Christmas once moved at a different pace. And maybe, just maybe, that slower rhythm made the magic last longer. These 14 traditions, from lead tinsel that hung like silver waterfalls to oranges wrapped in tissue paper like precious gifts, weren't just different ways of celebrating. They were lessons in patience, community, and finding magic in simple things that took time to appreciate. We traded them for convenience, for safety, for progress, and maybe we needed to. But that weekly walk to the bank, the surprise of carolers on your porch, the delicious torture of waiting months between circling a toy and unwrapping it on Christmas morning, those rituals taught us something about anticipation that instant gratification never could. Childhood didn't just change. It became something our grandparents wouldn't even recognize.